Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This year, we're finally putting 2020 to bed. Finally, go to bed, 2020.
Go. Just get out of here.
Go home, you're drunk.
Is that what was happening?
I don't know, I'm not sure.
The whole year was drunk.
Yes. We're going to wrap up 2020 by visiting and revisiting some of our favorite video games of last year.
I gotta say, and maybe this is jumping ahead a little bit, not a great year for games. I mean, not a great year for a lot of stuff, but yeah. I feel like not
a great year for not just games.
Yeah, but
yep.
games in particular.
Yeah, it was tough to really work my way through this list. There were a lot of games I played that were like, that was fine. That was all right.
Yeah.
It's not a bad game. Yes.
And to be fair, there was a lot of that has to do probably with just, everything else going on in 2020. There are a lot of delays, due to, the whole pandemic thing, a lot of production delays and just releases getting pushed back.
Yeah.
Maybe related to the new consoles as well. But I was trying to put together the list, and sometimes it's tough, like which ones are going to make it into my top 5 or 10. And then this year it's more like, did I play 10 games last year? It was real close.
Yeah, yes. I also feel like maybe my demands for entertainment increased in 2020. I need just mindless escapism 24/7 to, not stress about everything else happening outside of my house. So it's, maybe I was just asking too much of video games in 2020. Maybe my needs could not possibly have been met by video games last year.
I think that's definitely true.
Yeah. I feel similarly. I mean, obviously, it was nuts with movies. I was trying to think, what are my favorite movies from last year? I'm like, what movie did I see last year?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Didn't see it, so I can't weigh in on that, but I'm sure it's quality.
I heard it was actually good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that goes beyond video game movie good into actual movie good, but not terrible.
Right.
It's no Monster
not one
Hunter.
Of those, it's pretty good for a video game movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. They were good games. I'm prepared to talk about a few. DJ, are you? Were you able to whittle it down at all?
Yeah. No, I have a list. I did play some stuff.
Yeah.
As much as I would just like to say Final Fantasy XIV was my game of the year 2020 and be done with it. Although I have to give it credit as far as just endless escapism goes, that was sort of everybody else was playing Animal Crossing. Final Fantasy was kind of my I could just go here and everything's fine kind of game.
Good.
I mean, I also played Animal Crossing. We
all need that. So you had 2 of those games.
Yeah. It was great. 2020 is fantastic.
Yeah, maybe Animal Crossing is probably a reasonable place to start because, it's probably not a surprise to our audience that's a big pick for me. I adored Animal Crossing New Horizons. I can't even imagine what 2020 would have been like without Animal Crossing.
Oh, for sure.
That's a lot of pressure to put on an entertainment product, but man, the timing of Animal Crossing could not have been better for my life.
Yeah,
and for the lives of several billion people. Exactly. So yeah, I think if you Google Animal Crossing is the game we all need right now, you probably get a lot of hits. Because it kind of fit perfectly into kind of the degree of escapism we all really needed in that moment.
Yeah. I would say I tend to be a little more critical about the Animal Crossing games than most people. So I don't know if I would even go as far to say like, oh yeah, one of the like the best games of the year, Animal Crossing, because to me it all feels kind of iterative. But I think without a doubt, Animal Crossing was the game of 2020. Just like you said, it came along at the perfect time. It was like just the exact escapism people needed. It was, for the longest time, in fact, still to some degree, you just couldn't go anywhere online because that's where everybody was anyway, and not see people talking about Animal Crossing.
Right.
So just very serendipitous that it came out at the exact point when everybody needed it.
Yeah. I think that's a fair criticism, though. I mean, looking back on the sort of the history of Animal Crossing games, it's I think it's the best Animal Crossing game, but I don't feel like it's a big enough jump from the previous one to sort of, get high fives all around. There certainly are a number of just painful things that, you have to do 40 times a day in Animal Crossing that I could nitpick and have nitpicked in the past. And I feel like, Animal Crossing needs to jump a little further between this one and the next one, or continue to jump further in this one, because there is obviously talk of continuing to support this with new events and new content into the future. And why would you not? Because, it sold a bajillion copies. So, I mean, Animal Crossing is sort of this living, breathing thing, but it doesn't seem to kind of grow as fast as the rest of the video game world seems to.
And it's tough because, Animal Crossing is an amazing game. And I just feel like there's so much more potential for it. And I'm just like, oh, maybe next time they'll just really blow it open. And they end up doing something that is like 90% identical to the previous game, which is fine because Animal Crossing is great. But do you remember like the first month playing this game where it was, it was a truly just deserted island and people were just like, oh my God, how does this game even work? It's so different from the previous ones. And it really felt like wow, they really changed up the formula this time. What's going to happen a month from now? And then a month later just turns into the exact same Animal Crossing that people have been playing for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Which again is fine. Yeah. But there was just that little glimmer of like, oh, maybe this is something new finally, but kind of faded away after those initial weeks.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. I get that. It has to be familiar enough to be cozy for those of us who are hardcore about these things.
Right.
So you can't do, okay, it's Animal Crossing, but now there are zombies in space. You know what I mean? It couldn't jump so far out of the thing that it is no longer that thing.
Right.
And my complaints about Animal Crossing are not even that. The fact that it's, it's the same Christmas event more or less every time and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. So be it. That's cool. It just shouldn't be so hard to like craft things. It shouldn't be so difficult to like, if I want to have all the DIYs, eventually get all the DIYs for a specific season, I shouldn't have to, spam balloons on the edge of my island for 3 hours on a Saturday night. I have time this year to do those things, but,
luckily.
If this were any other year, it just would not have been possible, and I would have been angry that I didn't get all those things I'm trying to collect.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. But still, the game that people really needed in 2020, so
yeah.
Thank you, Animal Crossing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Nintendo, for your weird, scary foresight into what 2020 was going to be like.
Yeah, who knew? Yeah. I mean, who at Nintendo knew? What was the plan?
Hopefully no one. That would be
hopefully no one. Right.
Nefarious, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the 2 dates of random things in my life that I remember from 2020 are the day that Animal Crossing came out and the day that the company I work for shut down to go into lockdown. And those dates are 5 days apart from each other in March. So like I will into an eternity kind of remember where those 2 things landed on a calendar. And yeah, the timing on that could not have been better for what I needed out of a video game at that point. Ooh.
Well, I as much as I'm a little bit down on it, just because I'm always a little bit down on Animal Crossing, I really do hope that, it's been almost a year since the game came out. I'm really curious to see what they do for year 2 of this thing.
I agree. I mean, it's very much a live thing that they're treating it as a service now that they can kind of continue to plug new updates and content into. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if it's just a repeat of the last year's kind of highlights and benchmarks, then that would be disappointing.
But you're not excited for Bunny Day 2021?
I am not. No, not at all.
I still
take
got all
that
the
month
eggs from last year, so I won't have
Yeah,
to do
seriously,
anything.
I have all that shit clogging up my category. My what you call it? Not category. What's it called?
The
inventory.
Your dresser. Yeah,
that's the word. Yep. So no, I don't need that. But yeah, Animal Crossing. Thank you.
Yeah. What else? Any other good games last year? Did I miss anything?
There are a few. 2, 3. 2, maybe 3. What did you love, DJ? What else did you adore?
Well, I feel like I've talked about it a lot at this point, but 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, really good. That's probably my game of the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough coming up with, like, I do try and put together kind of a numbered top 5 list. And it's tricky because in some cases I'm not even finished with all of the games on it. Like this year, I'm trying so hard to finish Yakuza Like a Dragon, but it is just endless.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting real close.
I loved Yakuza, what I played of it, but I've not seen the end yet. And I certainly don't think I've played enough of it to have a sense of my total appreciation for it. There are still characters on the cover of the box that I haven't met yet, and I'm like, I don't know when this person comes into the game, but it's not in the first 25 hours. So yeah, I don't have a sort of an end credits impression of where Yakuza Like a Dragon goes, but I liked what I played of it. Would recommend it to others based on that, but not enough to sort of like this is the definitive example of a game I beat and loved in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still loving every minute of it, but at the same time, just like, oh man, it's so long. Maybe it shouldn't be this long.
Yeah.
But 13 Sentinels, I got to the entire
13
thing.
Sentinels, absolutely.
And I guess my original point was when I'm trying to like weight which game should be number 1 versus number 2, I try and go with, I don't know, which overall package was I more satisfied and glad existed during 2020, I guess. And with that criteria, I would go with 13 Sentinels, because as amazing as Yakuza Like a Dragon is, it's kind of similar to the previous 6 Yakuza games. I mean, certainly it does a lot of stuff that is very surprising and different and fresh, but still a lot of it is familiar. And 13 Sentinels, maybe just because I haven't played a lot of visual novels of this type, was just totally blew me away. So very satisfied putting that as my number 1.
Cool. And that's one of those things where if you had reviewed it based on your first, I don't know, 10 hours with it or whatever, like you kind of talked about it early on that you weren't entirely sure how to approach this thing because it had 13 main characters and a lot of story, and you were kind of hopping around and I think, yeah, certainly your take on that definitely evolved and grew as it approached its final hours.
Yeah, it had kind of a slow start, but I had it on. I had enough people saying, like, just stick with it. It's kind of touch and go at points, but it does come together at the end, which I ended up agreeing with. So yeah, I like that one a lot.
Excellent. Good. So she's one of the ones that I really appreciated last year was the golf, which I think you played too.
I played that on Apple Arcade back in the day.
Yeah. I played it on the Switch. That came out, that was pre-Animal Crossing. That was early in the year. And I really went hard on that game. I really just completely enamored by the goofy construction there, in that it was a golf game where you start off hitting golf balls and then slowly work your way up to hitting everything in the universe.
Yeah.
And trying to sort of drop it into a hole. It is just this sort of wacky, sort of seemingly endless collection of riffs on the concept of golf. It is not going to sort of scratch the itch of anybody who's looking for Tiger Woods 2020, if that's a thing anymore. But I don't know. It is, I think, a really unique and creative way of taking this sort of universally acknowledged thing that is golf and making it into, 45 different other video games, essentially.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah. So yeah, I adored it. I put when I got my sort of Nintendo 2020 like recap where they send you this little infographic of all the games that you spent tons of hours with in the year. What the Golf was one that I had spent something like 25 hours with, and I was like, really, playing golf? But yeah, I 100%ed that game. I did everything there is to do in What the Golf, and was hungry for more when it was over. So I thought that game was a lot of fun.
Do you know what was my number 2 Switch game in 2020?
No, what was it?
It was Dragon Quest Builders 2.
Oh, excellent.
And when I got that email, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that was still last year.
My number 3 was Slay the Spire, which was also one of my favorite games from the previous year. So it's not like on December 31st you have to stop playing games from that year, thank God.
Right. I mean, I did. Yeah. I remember specifically playing a bulk of it in like January and February, but that just seems like decades ago at this point.
Yeah. And that was a 2019 release anyways, right? That was late
not even,
that year. Yeah.
Not even a recent thing.
Right.
But cool. What the Golf? Did you finish all the holes in that? Because I remember it was on Apple Arcade, like I said, and I remember playing it and thinking, man, I could get to the end of this game, but it's going to take like months. There's just so many holes in this thing, and you have to keep the subscription going forever. Oh yeah, I did the whole thing. There was one sort of cluster of holes based on Super Hot, the video game Super Hot, where time only moves when you're moving, and the conceit of the levels and What the Golf were time only moved in the game when the ball was rolling. So you had to sort of time your shots very sort of deliberately to avoid, obstacles and enemies. And man, they gave me just the fits. I had such a time getting through that and was not good at it at all, and had to watch a number of YouTube walkthroughs and stuff just to be able to finish it, and finally kind of lucked my way into 100%ing it. But that was the only thing that was the outlier for me. I had beaten everything in that game except for the Super Hot levels for a long time, and really had to work for them. Was that even an official collaboration? Or they just decided, oh, Super Hot, that's cool. Let's throw some of those in here. I don't know if that was sort of sanctioned by the Super Hot developers, or if it was just a loving homage by the Golf developers. Yeah, I mean, they even sort of riff on the soundtrack from Super Hot in it. They have a giant logo that pops up on the screen, and a big creepy voice says Super Golf. Oh, jeez. So there's no mistaking what the Golf developers were riffing on during those levels. Yeah. They were pretty clear what they were taking their inspiration from. I was just wondering how far they went with it. That's funny. Yeah. But anyway, speaking of Super Hot, another one of my favorite games from last year, Spelunky 2. What does that have to do with Super Hot? Oh, don't think about it too hard. Okay. Man, this game has been a roller coaster. I remember earlier, like in the first couple of weeks, there was definitely a period where I was like, I don't know about this. I mean, even leading up to release, that was kind of my impression of it. It was just like, I remember you being like, I don't know if I need a Spelunky 2. Yeah, and I was just like, what is the point? Like, Spelunky 1 felt like such a complete idea. Why would you make another one? What is it going to add to the game? But I think, like, somehow he did it. Derek Yu, the creator of Spelunky, just made a game I think, like, is worthy of being a sequel to Spelunky. And it in a weird way, it made me feel like playing Spelunky for the first time again. Because, like, the first couple of weeks, I was just like, oh, man, I'm pretty good at Spelunky 1. Spelunky 2, very difficult. Maybe too difficult. But in a way that I was like, wait a minute, this is just the same kind of learning curve as when I played Spelunky 1 for the first time. It was just like almost insurmountably difficult, at least the first few attempts at it, because there's just so much to like learn and discover and like just to figure out in terms of how the game works and what you're supposed to do.
And your experience from Spelunky 1 did not sort of adequately prepare you for that?
I mean, it did. So I kind of knew what I should be looking for or like trying to understand about it. But in a weird way, it was like there were some things you kind of had to retrain yourself to adjust to in Spelunky 2. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I'm much more comfortable with it. Still probably not as comfortable as I am with Spelunky 1, but I've definitely gotten past the point where I was thinking like, oh, well, this is just a disaster. Don't know about this. I'm going to be back playing Spelunky 1 in months, or like not even months, and I'm just going to go immediately back to it after this one. But now I'm just like, oh, maybe I'll just stick with Spelunky 2.
Have you gone back to Spelunky 1 since?
I did, actually.
Okay.
I turned on my Vita, of all things, a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh, Spelunky's on here. I'll just play this. Got to the super secret ending on the first try, so it's just like, oh, all right. And then I've gone back to Spelunky 2 since then. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm so impressed that he was able to pull this off. Like, he made a really good sequel, it turned out. I don't know if I need a Spelunky 3, although maybe I'll just do that as well in a few years. Just turn everything on its head again.
Right.
But yeah, I'm so amazed that it turned out this well. I didn't think I wanted a sequel to Spelunky, and here it is, and it's good.
Excellent. One of the games that was on my big list from last year was The Last Campfire.
Yeah.
It was the new Hello Games game, and that was the developer that made No Man's Sky. So this is a pretty significant kind of pivot for them. Although they had made games like this previously. This is not an expansive, like, a galaxy simulator essentially with 85 quintillion planets to visit. It is a much smaller kind of narrative and puzzle driven, essentially adventure game. And it's a lot quieter. It's much less rowdy, and a little more kind of introspective and meandering. But it's one of those games that I really like, where you kind of walk into a room, into a new area, into new biome or something like that, and you're kind of tasked with kind of putting together the pieces of what is the puzzle I have to solve here based on almost no context. So, there's a box I can move, there's a pressure pad, maybe those two things go together. Here's a pressure pad, but I can't find a box. How do I get something on? You know what I mean? And really just kind of taking those video gamey instincts a lot of us have from years and years of doing this thing and trying to suss out what the solution to a puzzle is. And The Last Campfire, I think, does that stuff really, really well. I consume this game like crazy. Like, I think I played a lot of it in one really long sitting, and then came back to it and finished it the next day. And it's not a brief game, so it is definitely something that I gravitated to and kind of latched onto when it came out. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, this one sounded really cool. This is the one you said it was like sort of open-ended Zelda dungeons.
Yeah, I could see that, absolutely.
Yeah, it's on my list. It turns out there were games that came out last year that I wanted to play.
I have some of those too, absolutely. But yeah, that was a good one.
What about The Last of Us Part 2? What is everybody's favorite game?
I played a lot of that, and I think I liked a lot of it. It was so tough to like enjoy something that grim and dour. Yeah. At the end of, when did that come out? April? It was just really, I was not in the headspace to appreciate what Last of Us was trying to do at that point.
No, not a great year for that game to come out.
Yeah. I don't have any objections to their narrative choices, and that seems to be like a lot of where the brouhaha on the internet seems to come from. I think it's kind of a bold way of approaching this thing, and I won't get into spoilers here, obviously, but I really appreciated that they treated it like there were no sacred cows and kind of went a different and unique and unexpected way with it. Mm-hmm. It seemed like a lot of gamers had a problem with that. My issue with it was more just, I just was not in a place where I could appreciate, hiding behind boxes and waiting for my head to get eaten. It was, it was, I don't know. it's a beautiful game. It is just, lush and gorgeous in every way. I really just sort of, labored over. But maybe at some point in 2021, I'll feel compelled to go back to it and see how it ends. But yeah, as it is, I didn't finish it.
That's too bad. Yeah, it was definitely not, just from what I heard about sort of the thinking that went into the game and the goals they had for the narrative, it's like, I don't think this is the game I need to play right now, if ever. I would really love if they just had, like, the Seattle tourism mode where there are no zombies or people trying to murder you, but you could just, spend a nice day outside walking around, because, the game does look very gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice. I'll take that. Absolutely. Yeah.
The walking simulator mode.
Right. Yeah.
What else? What else did I play last year? Play some Fall Guys, Among Us. Among Us, not even from last year, but it was on a lot of people's lists.
I played quite a bit of Fall Guys. Season 1, man, I went hard on Season 1 Fall Guys. I think I maxed out and then just kind of fizzled a little bit, unfortunately, when it maxed out at the level cap, but didn't get back to it for Season 2, and geez, now they're on to Season 3, and I feel horribly behind.
Well, you gotta do some catching up.
Yeah, but it's fun. I think there is something sort of like universally kind of appreciated about something like that, about a game show kind of game, that, doesn't punish you too aggressively for not being great at it, that makes you feel like super victorious for pulling off something dumb and being able to be, 2 seconds better at doing that dumb thing than somebody else. Yeah. And, plus just seeing, weird little bean people like fall down and fall off of cliffs and bounce off of each other and stumble their way through a brick wall is, again, just sort of universally appealing and entertaining.
That's one of my favorite things about it, is that it works so well as just a spectator sport, where I could be playing it. I would like usually get in a group with some buddies, and we'd all hop in. And if I got eliminated, like in the early on or whatever, I would have a perfectly fine time just, watching my friends try and get through the rest of the course, or like cheering them on if they get to the final round or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, even if everybody else got eliminated, just kind of watching the antics of everybody, just because it's so goofy watching everybody flail around and have to deal with the physics and all that. Yeah,
and I don't always feel that way about things like Fortnite or Tetris 99.
Yeah.
It's like, as soon as I fail out of those games, I'm done. I'm back to the lobby, and when can I get in again?
Yeah, exactly. But, I'm just like, I'm dead. Get me out of here immediately.
You and I played Fall Guys together one night for a few hours, and I would fail early, or you would fail early, and we would hang and watch the other person play until they failed. And like you said, there's just something kind of entertaining about seeing your buddy kind of bounce off of a wall or whatever and do his thing.
Yeah, I would like to have more games with that sort of, the spectator element in mind. And hopefully, hopefully that's kind of the next thing for Battle Royale style games, and they're not all the, 100-person deathmatch arena kind of model. I'd like to see more of the game show or like sporting event kind of stuff. Be cool.
Yeah. That'd be neat.
Among Us, I just threw in there because these games feel very similar in a weird way, even though they're really not that similar. The characters look kind of the same. But just two games that really blew up towards the end of the year. People couldn't stop talking about.
Yeah, I have pretty limited experience with Among Us. I see the appeal. But again, I think that is one of those things that's best when you've got some people that you know and can play along with, and just getting a crowd together for that was a little tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. It's tough to. I mean, you need kind of a large group to get the most out of that game. Yeah,
well, because it's a mystery. I mean, right? And it's, if you're playing a murder mystery with two characters, it's not extremely difficult to figure out who done it. So you definitely need a kind of a room full of people so you have more options.
We were trying to figure out the logistics of like some nights we just have 4 people, and we're like, can we do this? Like really, once they kill one person, you just have to call a meeting immediately and be like, well, it was the other guy
who's looking shifty.
Yeah. But like Fall Guys, in kind of a different way, just another great spectator game. I ended up probably watching a lot more of that on Twitch than I ended up playing.
Well, I think that not really probably even deliberate decision on behalf of those developers is what essentially saved this game. I mean, the first sort of blush of this, the first release of this didn't sell great, so the developers were already working on a second one to try to keep it alive, and Twitch got onto it and really just started amplifying and adding a visual element to this quiet indie game in a lot of ways, and I think that essentially saved it from kind of video game oblivion.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's doing pretty well for them.
Yeah, definitely. It's on the Switch now. That cannot be a bad thing.
I've heard about that. Yeah, that's definitely not a bad thing.
Oh, so yeah, the these Immortals I've not gotten to talk about on the show yet because
haven't
it came
spoken
out.
any Immortals lately.
No, I've not talked to a single one. It came out at the kind of beginning of December. I think December 11th or 12th it came out, and at that point we were pretty much wrapping up our year and had just gotten ready to sort of record our Drunktacular and stuff, so we weren't, kind of checking in on video games on the show. But I am at this point 36 hours into Immortals. Yeah, every time I save the game, it tells you how much of it you've played, and I'm like, I don't want to know that information. You just stop that.
Yakuza is the same way. I'm just like, oh my god, what? Like,
yes.
How have I spent so long playing this game?
Yeah, and at a point where I could have felt like I was, I don't know, immune to the Ubisoft open world game of the year. Man, Immortals, and this has just the worst titles. Immortals Phoenix Rising
It's really
got
bad.
me, man. It's so terrible. It used to be called Gods and Monsters. That was a great game name for a game, and I don't know why they changed it.
I mean,
it's a pretty good game. Yeah,
it's better than Immortals Phoenix Rising, but
right.
Still kind of rough.
Fenyx. That's the other bad part.
Why is it spelled like that?
I don't know.
Is that the guy's name?
Yes, the main character's name is Phoenix.
Okay.
But yeah, big open world game, populated by Greek gods, tons and tons of puzzles. It feels like a Breath of the Wild in medieval Greece, and it's surprisingly fun.
I've heard that. I've heard it's like look past the Ubisoft open world thing, and there's like a good game in there, even if it does tend to crib very closely from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, right down to a lot of the ways that Breath of the Wild just even operates. Phoenix Rising steals. But yeah, the thing about Breath of the Wild was, wandering down a path or riding your horse and going up over the crest of a hill or around a corner and like, here's a thing, here's something to discover, here's a puzzle to solve, here's an interaction to have or a fight to have over a treasure chest or something like that, and Immortals gets that part. There is just this crazy sense of discovery to the game that I have not in 36 hours gotten tired of, where I just keep sort of wandering around. I'll turn off all the little icons and all of the the next story beat thing go here and just kind of wander and solve puzzles and push heavy weights onto blocks to open doors and just all kinds of fun stuff like that, and I've not tired of it thus far.
That exploration element was something I did not like, for whatever reason. I did not get from Genshin Impact, which I thought was going to be like, if any game is going to ape Breath of the Wild, probably this one. But they just I don't know what it was about that. There just wasn't as much interesting stuff out there to run into, it felt like.
I agree. And when I did run into stuff like that, I was like, oh, what is this? What's going on here? What's inside this cave or behind this waterfall? In Genshin Impact, it was sort of like, oh, I just put your credit card in to find out. Really?
I didn't run into any of that. Was that?
I felt like some of the stuff that I wanted to do in that felt paywalled. Yeah.
I guess I didn't play it as long as you did.
Yeah. I mean, that was a little cynical. It was nothing quite as, obnoxious as to see this secret, swipe your credit card. But there definitely were things that I wanted to do, or places I wanted to go that, you have to be level X and whatever to be able to see these things.
Well, that means you just haven't leveled up enough. I don't know.
But it was
I don't know how it works at a certain point.
Level up in that game without putting money in, I thought.
Oh. Well, luckily I got out of it way before that even became an issue.
Yeah. That's a really nice looking game as well, but it just has just a hollow, empty heart. It has no soul. But Immortals is a lot of fun. I've had a really good time with it. And there's something that I find still kind of endlessly entertaining about Greek gods. I think God of War has not tired me on that. And I just remember loving these stories as a kid, and, they'll name check, Heracles, or who else were we getting into? I can't remember any of them now, of course, that I'm on the spot. But the story is told by Zeus, and he narrates as you're kind of playing along. He's the big daddy of all the Greek gods, so he knows all the connections. And there's still kind of muscles in my brain that remember, like Aphrodite and Hermes were married and had a kid, and blah blah blah. So there was all kinds of like weird machinations of these Greek gods that I remember from elementary school stories, and from God of War that are all kind of packed in my head. And I don't know, I like those fairy tales.
I never really, I don't know. I mean, sure, Greek gods are great. I don't necessarily like chase them down in video games, I realized. But,
yeah. I've
heard so much good about this game, though. Maybe I will take another look at it.
It's huge. I'm I don't know. I don't know when it's going to end. I keep discovering pieces of the map that are massive, and I'm like, oh man, at some point this is going to be just a huge, huge video game, and I hope I don't get tired of it and fail out of another open world game. But the fact that I've put nearly 40 hours into this thing is staggering as it is.
How much did you end up putting into Breath of the Wild when it was all said and done?
Over 200 hours.
Oh, okay. So, a little while to go still.
Yeah, because I remember the hook with Breath of the Wild is it had the there was a heat map you could look at in that. Eventually they patched it in that showed you kind of your footsteps for where you went for the last 200 hours. And if you got past 200, it would start erasing your earlier footsteps. And mine had just started kind of erasing old stuff. So yeah, I know I was over 200 hours on Breath of the Wild. I don't think Immortals is going to go there. I hope it doesn't.
You hope it doesn't. You hope it's not that good.
Seriously, I need this game to be a little less good.
Yeah. Got other stuff.
I have to get back to Yakuza at some point. It's the thing I've sacrificed essentially to play Immortals.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I have Hades waiting for me too. I have more Greek gods that need to be played.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's got plenty of Greek gods for you to get through this year.
Yeah.
I played some Hades. I thought it was pretty good. I don't quite
love that game.
Yeah, I don't quite understand. It's a great game. I don't think it's in my top 5 of the year, but I'm glad that it resonated very well with people. I think it's just like the combat's super fun. The stuff they're doing with the narrative, and especially like the voiceover readings and how everybody has slightly different things to say whenever you talk to them, is very cool. But when it comes down to it, it's just the type of roguelike that I have trouble getting into, where it's like you like start a new playthrough and get destroyed by enemies. You just get overwhelmed quickly, and every single time you just get like 1% more powerful. And eventually you'll have repeated the cycle enough where you can just get through the entire game.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting.
It's a little exhausting. So as much as I like the combat and everything, I just don't really like that format to begin with. But man, yeah, the narrative, especially if you're into Greek gods, is very entertaining. There are a lot of very colorful characters in there.
Cool. Yeah, that seems to be my impression of a lot of it's the developer Supergiant, right? That they really belabor really excellent voice acting, really good storytelling and dialogue, incredible music, and I don't really like the rest of their video games.
No.
Like, Bastion I've played, I think, twice now because I love the music. I love the character and the storytelling element of that. But I don't enjoy any of the fighting. And unfortunately, there's a lot of fighting in Bastion.
Hades is like only fighting. Might not be your thing.
It may not be, which is why I did not sort of immediately jump on it at the beginning. But it's just so hard when there's this thing that everybody really likes, and I feel left out of the conversation. So I definitely want to check it out at least.
Oh, jumping back a bit to the stuff that what was I going to say? The games that I stopped playing Yakuza for. No, it's actually the opposite. I stopped playing a different game so I could play Yakuza. Which was Judgment, which is also just a Yakuza game on some level.
It's kind of Yakuza, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't too much of a shift, but I finally got around to playing it this year. And like Yakuza Like a Dragon, it differs enough from the Yakuza format that I thought it was very refreshing. The fact that they could just make a game that is mostly you going around and kind of doing detective things and solving cases, I thought was very cool. And a lot of the time, it just kind of looks like you're watching a movie because there are so many cutscenes, which I'm sure you can appreciate having played the opening sequences, the Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Oh yeah, man, those first 10 hours of Yakuza are tough.
Yeah, but it was nice. It was cool to get away a little bit from the typical Yakuza cast and characters, and hang out with a new group, even if they're in the same corner of Tokyo or wherever they are.
I wonder if there is an initiative on behalf of this studio to kind of to tell other stories in the mold of Yakuza, because it's sort of what this is, right?
Yeah. I mean, do you mean you're wondering if there are plans for more games like this?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure if they've said anything, whether or not that's the kind of their goal, but it would be very cool. I like the idea that there could be multiple games in like slightly different genres taking place in the same universe.
Oh, do Judgment and Yakuza kind of coexist?
Oh yeah.
Oh, really? Cool. All right.
I
wasn't clear on that.
Not 100% sure, but you may run into characters from Yakuza in Judgment at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely going to all the same shops and restaurants and things, so I just kind of assumed must be taking place in the same place.
So they're just looking for ways to reuse those assets then.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not a terrible thing.
No, that's cool. That's fine. I mean, the developers of Saints Row did that for years.
Yeah, that's right. I was watching a lot of Yakuza streams, and it's hilarious when people are playing it for the first time. They're just like, oh man, I have to go here, and I have to go to this place that's across from this store, or like, where's the bowling alley or whatever, and people in the chat would be like, well, bowling alley is over in the northwest, and this shop is on the other side of town. And the people would be like, how do you know all this? Like, how do you just know where everything is? It's like, oh, because we've been living in this city for the last 15 years, or however long they've been making these games.
That's kind of fun.
Which is kind of remarkable.
Yeah. One of my big I don't know, happy, warm, cozy places from the summer was Paper Mario the Origami King.
Yeah, I've heard of this one.
Oh yeah, excellent. I've talked about it a lot. And I don't know, I feel like in a lot of ways people don't give Paper Mario games the time they deserve. I think there is a predisposition on behalf of a certain subset of video gamers to just condescend to new Paper Mario games because they will never be as good as the old ones. That's yeah, so be it. I mean,
to be fair, I heard the last few were not as good as the old ones.
There is varying quality. Absolutely. People forgive Zelda, I think, in a lot of ways for its weird detours and for, not always being as good as the previous one. But I don't know. Paper Mario, it seems like there's less patience for that.
I don't know if that's true either. Like, people are kind of down on Skyward Sword in particular, and then Twilight Princess. But, there's always that group that's like, hey, this was actually good. Why was everybody mad about this game? Yeah. So maybe that is just where you fall in the Paper Mario spectrum.
Yeah, definitely. So I adore this game. I think it's a blast. I think it is sort of Nintendo at their kind of wackiest and most creative. There are a lot of threads I can sort of connect between Paper Mario, the Origami King, and Luigi's Mansion 3 from last year, in just being oddball and entertaining and just not so kind of rooted in the saccharine kind of Mario, and being a little, not cynical, but just being a little less precious about Paper Mario, or about Mario in general. And the fact that I think this game specifically gives voice and character to a lot of the generic villains from the Mario games is just super entertaining. Yeah, the combat system gets a little old. And in the final hours, I find myself running in big berths around enemies just so I don't have to fight them anymore. But
that's like every RPG, though.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think RPGs tend to tread water in those last hours.
I'm definitely at that point in Yakuza 7 where I'm just like, those guys, I'm crossing the street. Going over there. Oh man, those street encounters get old fast in Yakuza. Yeah, I still exactly. But yeah, no, everything in Paper Mario: The Origami King just feels like a labor of love. It's beautiful to look at. There's a great sense of exploration. The puzzles are super satisfying. The characters are endearing and never annoying. And there's a lot of just funny insider Nintendo jokey things going on that keeps it entertaining. And the music's great. The music's so good. Go back to our music episode. Yeah, do that.
To truly appreciate some of that stuff. Yes, yeah. Adore the Origami King. Could not recommend it enough.
At some point I will play a Paper Mario game. It's weird that I haven't up until now. Yeah. But
particularly as much as you love Super Mario RPG, I think there's definitely hooks to that in this.
You know what I really like, though, is those Mario and Luigi RPGs. I think there's still a couple of those I haven't played, so maybe I'll do that and then start playing every Paper Mario game.
There you go. That's your 3DS DS backlog right there.
Yeah, no, sad but true. One game I want to give a shout out to is it's not really a video game, but I played a lot of it online just because you can't really get together and play a board game last year. This game called Wavelength. Have you heard of this?
I have not. What is that?
It is. Have you played Codenames?
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Okay,
I don't think I've played it, but I have a visual in my brain of what the box looks like at the store.
Okay. So you could identify it in a lineup.
Yeah.
So Codenames is one of my friends' favorite games to play when we can all hang out, because it's sort of a game about like trying to like give each other clues and try and figure out what the other person is thinking about without actually communicating with them. And I think Wavelength just takes it to a new level. It's a little less structured than Codenames, but I end up liking that a lot because it ends up being more about, I don't know, it kind of just boils down to having discussions and debates over just like semantics and the meaning of things. It's kind of a weird game to describe. It's really more helpful if you end up playing it. But basically what ends up happening is one player will be given a spectrum. For instance, so on one end you would have like, I don't know, like poorly made, and then on the other end is well made. And the game gives you a point on the spectrum, and then you have to give the other team, or you have to give your team a clue that that corresponds with that point. So okay. I don't know. It's tough to describe. So maybe you're given a point that's like 90% of the way towards well-made, and you come up with like, I don't even know. This is the point where you have to start thinking about your clue. But you could say like a Swiss watch or something that's pretty well made, and then your team has to debate like, okay, so is it like 90% of the way up there? Is it 80%? Is it like probably not down at the lower 50%? I don't know. But it turns into these really fascinating discussions about sometimes very silly topics. And like I said, I think it's typically a board game. There's like a physical version of this spectrum that you set up But since all of my interactions with friends over the last year have been over Zoom, somebody made an online version of it that we've just been playing every few weeks, and it's been really terrific.
Oh. This sounds like, and I see that, I myself have done a lot of online kind of game nights with friends just to sort of maintain some degree of being social. And yeah, for that reason, this sounds like it might be worth exploring. We recently played Among Us for the first time amongst our circle of friends, but mostly Jackbox games kept us going throughout much of the year.
Yeah. Shout out to Jackbox.
Yeah, I have much appreciation for, what the Jackbox people bring to the world. I think a lot of us probably learned a new appreciation for Jackbox games in 2020. But what you're describing sounds a lot like, have you heard of the game On a Scale of 1 to T-Rex?
No, but I can imagine how that goes.
It's the folks that did, it's The Oatmeal, that webcomic. He's also a game designer. He did Exploding Kittens. This is his newest game. And it's similar. It's basically charades for people who aren't good at charades. So you get a T-Rex and you have to act it out on a scale of 1 to 10. So you'll draw 2 cards. You have to be a T-Rex at a level 6. So you have to sort of embody a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and your friends have to guess what you're acting out, and 2, what level you're acting it out at. And then obviously you continue to kind of go through a bunch of sort of random objects and a specific level that you have to act them out at.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
it's a lot of fun.
Sounds similar.
It's a good time. A little more physical, a little less.
Yeah.
Maybe mental.
Maybe more difficult to do over a video call.
Right. Well, webcams. You can solve a lot of problems with webcams.
Yeah. You need to set up some space in your
right.
Your
Yeah.
living
You're
room
knocking things off shelves. Cool. That sounds like fun. I'll have to check that out and maybe add it to the repertoire.
Yeah, it's really good. It's called Wavelength. I'll put a link to the online version in the show notes. It's a little weird promoting it because it's just like some random guy who made a knockoff website. But that's what we've been using. I think there's an official version in the works, but it's in like testing or something. So who knows when that's coming out.
Cool. What haven't I gotten to yet on my list? Sackboy. I want to talk about Sackboy, a big adventure. That was a late 2020 arrival, and I found just super endearing. I love Little Big Planet games. I've played all of those in their many forms across multiple consoles, and was never really into, oddly enough, the character, like the world creation, the level creation elements of the Little Big Planet games. Mm-hmm. I would dabble with them every now and then, but really just liked the single player content, and of course liked sort of exploring other people's creations. So, when Sackboy: A Big Adventure rolled out this year, and it was just the adventure part, there was no world creation, there was no level building or level editor kind of tools built into it. It was really just a 3D platformer. I hoped that would be amazing, and it was kind of amazing, actually. I think it's a really, really good game. It's just endlessly creative. Just the world is just so packed full of visual input that it can be a little overwhelming sometimes to sort of figure out what should I be focusing on in a level where, your little sack person is on a boat moving down a river with 3 other sack people, and like all of the trees are swaying and singing and dancing along to a David Bowie song, and the clouds in the sky are bouncing, and there's birds chirping and flying around, and it's just tons and tons of fun things happening all at once, and you're supposed to be able to sort of play a video game in that kind of environment. It's a lot of input, but it's just beautifully crafted and assembled, clearly with a lot of love. And it doesn't make me long for the world building tools at all. It doesn't make me sort of feel like, something is missing. In fact, I think the game is stronger for not being like tethered to those tools. Mm-hmm. The single player games in all of the Little Big Planets have essentially been kind of like the ideal things you can build with the level editor. And to take that out of this component and to just sort of let the developers kind of build whatever they want to build in a level without having it tied back to the level editor, I think makes it a much better and more diverse game. Yeah.
I totally see that.
Yeah.
It's cool that they are able to branch Sackboy out a little bit. Because I felt like the platforming experience in the Little Big Planet proper games was like not all the way there. But
Yeah.
like you said, once they're free of sort of the limitations of that customization engine, they can do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I see what you mean. And certainly there is some floatiness and wackiness to the physics in those Little Big Planet games. And some of that still lives on in Sackboy. Mm-hmm. It is not as tight as we've all come to sort of expect from Mario, essentially. But you get used to it. And he certainly has a move set in a Big Adventure that is a lot more fun and varied than the previous games. So
yeah.
I continue to feel like, geez, if you live in a house with at least one other person who wants to play video games with you, up to 3 other people who might be willing to play, that this game should be a must-have. It is
that is the opposite of how I would recommend people play Little Big Planet. Now that you mention it, because I remember trying to play 4-player co-op in those games, and I was just like, is anybody enjoying this? This is maybe the worst thing I've done.
Yes, and it's again sort of a lot of input if you have 4 people trying to achieve these goals, but I think it's I think a lot of fun. The game launched without online co-op, and it was recently patched in, and while I'm still looking for my kind of perfect co-op partner, if somebody wants to co-op all of Sackboy with me, let me know. But I've jumped into a few games with some randos and had a pretty good time. It's a lot of fun. I would recommend. It feels like a Mario Party kind of game. It feels just kind of wacky, and there are levels that are built for kind of game show level kind of hijinks, and would recommend.
How fun. I didn't mean to slag on the multiplayer in this game because I haven't tried it, but I was just like so surprised to hear you say like, oh yeah, get as many people as you can into this Little Big Planet level. It just gets better and better.
What was the well, I mean, Nintendo did it as well with the there was one of the Super Mario Brothers games that you basically had 4-player platforming.
Oh yeah, they've done that a couple
grief
times.
Each other. Yeah, you would bump each other.
It's sometimes it's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah. Instead of jumping over Peach's, bouncing off of Peach's head to get up over an obstacle, and that means she falls into a bottomless abyss. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, sometimes that's what you want. Other times it doesn't work.
Sorry. Yeah. But yeah, again, I think what I wanted in video games a lot in 2020, particularly looking at this list that I've just recapped with you guys, is coziness, is familiarity in a lot of ways, is just entertainment and indulgence, and Sackboy, Paper Mario, What the Golf, all kind of had that, I think, in spades.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Penco Park, the kind of spooky light wildlife photography game that I played during Extra Life. Very good. And then just wanted to name a few of my my backlog games from 2020 going into 2021, because that always happens. Man, like I said, I've been trying so hard to get through Yakuza because I thought I could probably do that, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake in time to talk about both of those on the show, and that did not happen. So I heard that's actually really good, and that is another game like Spelunky 2. I was like, why are they making this? But I've heard several accounts where it's like, oh, it's actually good and does some clever things.
I'm sorry, Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So
I've seen the price go down on that a couple of times over the holidays. I saw it for, I think, $19.99 at one point, and I was like, I kind of like the demo for that. I don't know if I would play an entire version of that.
Yeah. Oh no, I think you should play it. I think that would be
for $20. I might give it a whirl.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. Might get around to it before I do.
Probably not, but.
And then there was this, just speaking of remakes all over the place, there was a Black Mesa, which is it feels like it's been in development forever, is the remake of Half-Life 1 in a kind of a more modern engine, I think. I think that's how it works. But that's also very good.
Is that official? Is that a Valve thing? Or
it's
is
not
that like
I don't know if it's like Valve, but it started as a fan remake, and I guess it just became Valve sanctioned at some point. I don't know the exact workings of it. I mean, they're not getting sued or anything. They're selling it on Steam, so I think they, they're all right. They're fine with it.
They have the blessing of their overlords, yeah.
Yeah. But man, it's been a long time since I played a first-person shooter, let alone a Half-Life game. So I thought, well, that'll be fun. Check that out. Maybe this year.
Excellent.
Maybe after Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I have a few that are like, geez, was super excited about and unfortunately just never got around to. So, Bug Snacks.
Bug Snacks,
I'm looking at you.
Bug Snacks pretty good.
Man, for a long time, I really felt like there's nothing that's going to keep me away from playing that game on the first day. And just still have not even seen the opening of it. So
all those fancy PS5 games you ended up playing.
Yeah, that must be it. So Bug Snacks, the new Spider-Man game, Miles Morales. Again, itching to play that. Love the first one. Just not gotten around to it yet. That might be a wait for the next-gen console kind of game. But, maybe those two. Those probably are my two biggest sort of video game regrets of 2020.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like I was saying, I felt like 2020... not a great year for games, but also I just ended up ignoring a lot of the highest profile games. Like, didn't play The Last of Us, didn't play Paper Mario, was probably never going to play Cyberpunk. Although that one turned out, it sounds like that one's not great. Sounds like that one needs some work.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it. Read a lot about that game already.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where, like, 3 years ago, I sort of felt like, geez, I would play a Cyberpunk game. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And the closer and closer we got to the release, the more I was like, nah, I think I'm good.
Not this one, though. What I do like is that people, like, since the launch has been kind of a mess, and there are a lot of people who don't want to play it for whatever reason, there have been a lot of posts where they're like, hey, if you do want to play a cool Cyberpunk game, how about this one? And,
yes.
So I've jotted down a couple of those, and some of them are even games that I played before. I'm just like, you know what? That was a good Cyberpunk game. Should play that again.
I think Humble that weekend, the first weekend that Cyberpunk was out, had pulled together a few kind of indie games that were Cyberpunk in theme, but not in name, and was sort of bundling them together at a good price. And I remember kind of amplifying that on Twitter and like, hey, maybe these games would be worth playing.
I'm sad I missed that.
Yeah. And I keep telling people, play the Shadowrun games. If you have access, I think they're all on Steam. I know they're all on Steam, in fact. Go find the, probably 4 or 5 years old at this point. Shadowrun, man, was Cyberpunk before CD Projekt Red ever got their brain wrapped around it. Yeah. So I would totally recommend.
Those new Shadowrun games, those like the XCOM style?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to...
kind of grid,
when I think of Shadowrun...
Grid-based.
Yeah. I think of the Super Nintendo and the Genesis versions, which are, going back a little bit, but also very good.
I can't vouch for those. But then, those new ones on Steam are a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard that as well.
And they're all cyberpunky. You all have, what you call it, weird, implants in your brain that allow you to do Johnny Mnemonic kind of things. Yeah,
exactly. Oh, man. Watched Johnny Mnemonic for the first time last week. That was weird.
Oh, no.
Oh no, as in, why did it take me that long? Or, oh no, I watched Johnny Mnemonic.
No, it's not a good movie. It's not at all a good movie.
It wasn't great.
It's probably not aged any better. Yeah.
It takes place in 2021, I didn't realize.
Oh, really? That's hysterical.
Yeah.
That's a really good book, though. I would recommend the book. Read the book.
Oh, I didn't even realize. Okay. Yeah. Check it out. This Keanu Reeves is not in the book.
He's not. I mean, but if that's the fun part about a book. You can cast anybody you want in it.
Oh, man. Maybe there's an audiobook with him reading it.
Oh, man. If I had a better Keanu Reeves impression, I would chalk that up right now. I would be all over. Let's do it.
I wonder what the world's best Keanu Reeves impression sounds like.
To the YouTube.
To the YouTube. Oh, man. Anyway, so maybe 2021 in honor of, or in the spirit of Johnny Mnemonic, is the year I play only Cyberpunk games. We've had the year of Luigi. It could be the year of Keanu.
Yeah. In Keanu-related news, I recently saw the movie Keanu.
Oh, Key and Peele's movie? That's not really Keanu-related.
Well, kinda. I mean, it's Key and Peele. And they have a cat that gets stolen. And the cat's name is Keanu. And there's a fantasy sequence where the cat talks, and it's voiced by Keanu Reeves.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought they were just... thought that was just the name of the cat, because it's kind of a funny name.
So Keanu's involved.
Okay. Well, I'm actually glad to hear that.
But that was entertaining. I had fun watching that.
All right. Well, okay. Then maybe it truly is the year of Keanu.
Must be. All right. Well, I feel like we've detoured. What else? Do you have any other games you want to talk about, or is that it? That's our list.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I have Minecraft on here just because I played a lot of that this year. I put that up there with Final Fantasy as just being a nice place that I can spend time not having to worry about going outside and coming into contact with other people.
Yeah. I read something recently about the concept of the third place. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah.
That people have home and work, and most of us aspire to have a third place. For some people, it's church. For some people, it's Starbucks. That there's another, a social space, a place where you can relax and be yourself and be among friends or whatever,
like a bar or something.
Right, yeah, and that for a lot of us, how much of that has moved to virtual in 2020, and they named obviously Animal Crossing as a place, or I forget, there was some other video game they mentioned. Just sort of the lobby of that is essentially a big group hang that, like, a lot of people don't even play the game. They just sort of hang out in the lobby and chit chat and socialize. And
like Destiny or something.
I don't know. Destiny, well, that PAX, that came up at PAX as the Destiny lobby as a group hang, but I don't know that that's where the article I read. I'll see if I can find the article. That's the smart way to do this, Randy.
And I'm curious what that game was.
Dig it out of my play history or my reading history and put it in our show notes, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, but yeah, it kind of is like Final Fantasy or Minecraft. Could be my third place. Although, I mean, at this point, it's like my second place. Because everything is either at home or on the internet somewhere.
Right, exactly. Excellent. All right, cool. Well, let's wrap this thing up, I guess. If you, dear listener, need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. You can also get a link to our Discord there, which we would encourage you to jump into. Talk about video games, hang out. There's a third place. I spent a lot of time on Discord this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of
just a crazy amount of time hanging out with like-minded gamers on our Discord. So go to VGHangover.com to get the link to that. And we would encourage you, as always, to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And perhaps most importantly and impactful is tell your friends about us.
Yeah. Tell them that we're all slamming on Cyberpunk. I don't know.
Not real gamers.
No, clearly not. I mean, anybody who listens to the show could tell you that. Thanks again to Lemonectric for our wonderful intro and outro music this week. We encourage you to check out more of his stuff at lemonectric.bandcamp.com. Also, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, follow him on Twitter. I believe it's just /Lemonectric, but he will once in a while post little snippets of stuff he's working on, which I think is very fun.
Nice. Excellent. Will do. All right, we'll be back next week to talk about more video games and probably some Keanu Reeves.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've already decided only Keanu Reeves games from this point on. Also, keeping on top of Taco Bell news here at Video Game Hangover, nacho fries are back. Okay. I was getting worried. I was just like, what? They removed from the menu this time?
No, it's good news now. It's not bad news this time.
What am I supposed to order with the nacho fries, though? That's the problem.
I can't help you with that. Yeah, there's not a lot.
Yeah.
They've meddled with that menu far too much. I don't even know what to eat there anymore, but I've had those nacho fries at least twice.
2020, probably the least Taco Bell I've eaten in decades.
Oh, probably. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Probably ultimately a good thing. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
Feels like part of my identity.
Right, exactly. All right, we'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.